A tech billionaire walked into a dying hardware store to buy it out from under an old woman's granddaughter for $2 million in cash. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She just unfolded a single grease-stained receipt on the counter, and his hand started shaking so badly he had to sit down. It is 6:45 in the evening at Reyes & Sons Hardware, the last independent hardware store on Findlay Street. The overhead fluorescent tubes hum and flicker, throwing pale light over sagging pegboard walls lined with wrenches, paint cans, and coils of rusted wire nobody buys anymore. The air smells like machine oil, sawdust, and 40 years of dust nobody has had time to chase. Elena Reyes stands behind the register, counting the drawer with the practiced speed of someone who has done it 7,000 times. Her flannel shirt is rolled to the elbows. Her hands are calloused, nicked with the small permanent scars of a life spent around tools. The bell over the door jingles. A man steps inside wearing a coat that costs more than the store's monthly rent. Adrian Vance, founder and CEO of Vance Meridian, the smart infrastructure company whose glass tower now shadows half the block, walks toward the counter like he already owns it. He sets down a black leather folio. Inside is a certified check. The number is obscene. $2 million, Adrian says. For a building worth maybe $300,000. Take it, Ms. Reyes. Nobody in this neighborhood is going to blame you for selling out to Progress. Elena doesn't even glance at the check. She keeps counting the drawer. There's something under this counter that isn't for sale, Mr. Vance, she says quietly. And it isn't the building. 3 days pass. At 7 a.m., the alley behind the store, the only route the delivery trucks use to bring in lumber and steel stock, is sealed off by a construction fence, chain link and razor strong, bolted into place overnight under a city permit Elena never saw coming. Adrian stands beside his car in a charcoal overcoat, arms folded, watching the crew finish the last panel. To him, this isn't cruelty. It's simply pressure applied correctly. Cut off supply, and the business suffocates on its own. Elena walks out in her work apron, unbothered, carrying a thick folder of her own. You can't choke a business you don't understand, Adrian, she says, and drops the folder on the hood of his car. Municipal Code, Section 12, any private development obstructing a licensed commercial loading zone owes daily compensation until access is restored. I filed the claim at 6 this morning. She doesn't tell him yet. She just turns and walks back inside, leaving him standing in the cold with his own arrogance cracking at the edges. It's past midnight, 10 days later. Rain hammers the tin awning outside the shop. Adrian sits in his parked SUV across the street, telling himself he's only here to check on the asset. The truth is his insomnia has chewed through another sleepless night, and something about the crooked hardware store sign feels quieter than his penthouse. He goes inside. Elena is closing up when a man, Ray, a regular, 3 drinks past sober, stumbles in shouting about a debt, slamming his palm on a glass display of box cutters, threatening to break something. Adrian's hand moves toward his phone. Call security. Eliminate the problem. Before he can dial, Elena steps around the counter with no weapon and no fear. She talks Ray down in under 90 seconds, steady voice, a bottle of water, his daughter's name spoken twice, and quietly pockets his car keys so he can't drive. Adrian watches, stunned. This is not the fragile woman his lawyers described in the acquisition file. You'd have made a hell of a negotiator, Adrian tells her once Ray is asleep in the back office. Why waste that here? Because my father built this place with his hands, Elena says. And somebody has to keep it standing. Adrian's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly at the word father. He says nothing. He just drinks his coffee and leaves before sunrise. 2 days later, the ruthless version of Adrian returns, this time by phone, from 40 floors above the city. Your mother's assisted living facility carries a lien I now personally own, Elena, he says, voice flat and surgical. Sign the sale of the store, and the debt disappears tonight. Refuse, and collections begin tomorrow morning. Elena's knuckles go white around the phone, but her voice doesn't break. You bought my mother's medical debt to blackmail me, she says. That's not business, Adrian. That's cowardice. She hangs up before he can answer, walks into the back office, and pulls a locked steel box out from beneath her father's old workbench. The next morning, Elena walks into the glass tower on the 41st floor wearing the same flannel shirt, boots leaving damp prints on white marble. Adrian expects tears. He gets none. She drops a heavy, oil-stained leather ledger onto his pristine desk, right on top of the sale contract. You're very good at burying your past under money, Elena says. I have one question. How much are you planning to pay to buy back your own? Adrian's confident expression falters. He doesn't understand yet. He reaches for the ledger like it's an insult. Elena opens it to a page marked by a faded ribbon. June the 3rd, 20 years ago, she reads aloud. A boy broke in through the alley window at 2 a.m. He didn't take cash. He took a soldering iron, 40 feet of copper wire, and a box of transistors. My father caught him before he made it out the door. Adrian's face drains of color. That's a decades-old break-in, he says, forcing his voice steady. Statute of limitations expired years ago. You have nothing. Elena slides the ledger closer. Beneath the police notes, in her father's blunt, uneven handwriting, is a second entry, dated the following week. Gave the boy a job sweeping floors instead of calling it in. Loaned him $500 from the register for a patent filing fee. Told him to pay it back only if he ever made something of himself. Never did hear if he did. Adrian stares at his own initials in a dead man's handwriting. The floor of his empire quietly gives way beneath him. That patent, he whispers. That was my first sensor prototype. That $500 is the reason Vance Meridian exists. That night, Adrian shows up at the store soaked through, no coat, no driver, no armor left. He holds out a torn legal envelope. I canceled the collection, he says, voice hollow. The debt on your mother's care, it's gone. I didn't know he carried that theft himself instead of reporting it. I didn't know it cost you this much. He pulls out a checkbook, his oldest reflex when something feels broken. Let me make it right. Name a number. Elena finally reaches into her apron pocket and sets the object on the counter between them, the original grease-stained receipt from that June night, 20 years old, her father's handwriting listing the missing copper wire and transistors, the exact page she photocopied for the ledger, kept folded in her pocket since the day Adrian first walked in with his check. This is what I put on the counter the first night you tried to buy this place, she says quietly. I'd been carrying it around for 2 weeks, waiting to see if you'd earn the right to see it, instead of just paying to make it disappear. Adrian looks down at the faded ink. His hand shakes so hard the checkbook slips and lands, forgotten, in a puddle at his feet. Put your money away, Adrian, Elena says. My father didn't loan a scared kid $500 so that 20 years later you'd come back with millions to buy off your conscience. He didn't want a return. He just wanted you to turn into someone decent. She steps back inside and closes the door. The deadbolt clicks. Adrian stands alone in the rain, the checkbook ruining in a puddle, the receipt burned into his memory. Weeks later, morning light cuts warm across Findlay Street. The construction fence is gone. The new Vance Meridian Smart Hub breaks ground next door, its foundation curving deliberately around the little hardware store instead of through it. Elena steps outside with a cup of coffee and finds Adrian in the parking lot, no charcoal suit, just a faded t-shirt, worn jeans, and a ladder over his shoulder. The awning's been leaking since before you were born, he says. I'm guessing it started rotting the same year my $500 should have gone toward parts instead of a roof repair. Let me fix it myself. It isn't a check. It isn't a negotiation. It's the only currency that actually means something, his own hands, his own time. Elena studies him for a long moment, then nods. Hourly rates paid in black coffee, she says. We don't carry workers' comp. I'll take it, Adrian says, and starts climbing. Watching a self-made billionaire climb a ladder with a hammer in his hand, it's hard not to think about the debts we never put on a balance sheet, not the financial ones, the moral ones. We're taught that success erases the past. Climb high enough, build big enough, and the mistakes of your youth simply vanish under the weight of what you've built since. But that's not how it actually works. I've watched people try to write six-figure checks to repair decades of silence, and it almost never lands, because atonement was never a transaction to begin with. It's labor. It's humility. It's standing in the wreckage you helped cause and admitting your success was quietly financed by someone else's mercy. Adrian didn't buy his redemption with $2 million. He started earning it the moment he picked up a hammer to fix a roof he owed 20 years of gratitude to. So here's the question for you. Is there a hardware store, a diner, a corner shop somewhere in your past, a debt you never repaid, a kindness you never went back to acknowledge? What would it take for you to finally go fix that roof? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.